Know and respect your parents is good advice in general, and in breeding, that's a fundamental tenet. This particular application has been built to facilitate the exploration of parental material. So you can go in and choose your data set. So demo data set, for instance, here. You can see it's not going to draw all of those nodes right away because there's so many of them, but you can choose to click to view it anyway. So if we were to do that, it takes a little bit of time to run, of course, and draw that. And you can see here, this is a very messy tree with a lot of nodes. We're going to put the primary label down here as an anonymous name. And then we're going to use filters to explore stuff more specifically. So for instance, I could go in if I was interested in LH195. I could filter that and it would just be a single node. If I wanted to see what came before it, I could draw the nodes before it to the limit, or I could say just give me one step back and it would just show you what the parents are. You can also click on an individual node and draw a step back from there if you want, and you can see here that it highlights networks depending on where you click in the pedigree tree that's drawn. Similarly, we could take it off antecedents, select that again, and look at the descendants. And here we might want 2 levels of descendants, and that will draw us then, all of these materials, hybrids, and lines. If I just wanted to see lines that were derived, including if somehow the hybrid was involved in derivation, I could select that, and that cleans it up to just the lines, or if for whatever reason there's a hybrid being used in derivation. If I wanted to just look at hybrids and co-parents, I can do that. Clearly here there's so many of them. If we just wanted to go one level, that's a little bit cleaner, and you can see how that works. And then, of course, lines and co-parents. Again, you can see here you need to be filtering on your genetic material in order to not pull back sort of everything. And then, of course, you can filter on other items as well. So, for instance, I might want to say, let's just reset this, and then it's unfortunately going to draw everything again because we already drew it once. But if I wanted to just look at, say, things that had a PVP expire in a certain date range, I could pick those. So that's going to pick from there, and then, if we wanted to say, okay, what's expiring in this date range, we could filter those specific items and see what they are. When you filter down to something, you can always export a CSV. That's often going to be the way that you're going to want to, actually use this data later on for various purposes. And this is for, sort of exploration. The other thing that's in here is shading of nodes. So you can see here, you could shade based on days to maturity, or you could, shade based on number of recoveries. Gives you a sense of what lines are important or not. Likewise, you could filter based on some of those things. Like if you wanted to just look at number of recoveries, something that was 45 or more, and there's a fair number of those. So if we go 67, there's fewer and fewer. Don't have anything that's been recovered more than 89 times, but you can see that as you get upwards, it's a smaller and smaller number of items that would potentially be filtered. So you could focus on lines that have a high rate of recovery, and then you could also put in there, for instance, if you wanted a particular days to maturity range, you might be interested in things that are 110. Let's see, that's 95 day. That's sort of interesting. I would have expected. So there we go. If we go from the 80 range to because it's doing lines and co-parents, that's why it's giving so many. So there's only one thing in there that really sort of fits this, and you can see that it's probably in that 95 day range. And so if we filtered that one item that would be the line of interest. So you can get down to material that's been, recovered extensively and focus on it. Just to show some other features here, so let's reset this again. It's going to draw it all over again. So let's go back to LH195, and if you click on this, there's a little pop-up and some additional information about it. Again, you can always, do a step back. That information depends on, what your configuration is here, and I'll show you how to configure stuff. But it also contains potentially, interesting information here. So you could go to, for instance, links. Now clearly, Iowa stiff stock synthetic doesn't necessarily have a PPP link or a patent link, but just to show here that this would allow you to get to these particular documents if of interest. And you actually have to open them up in a separate window, otherwise you'll have to default back here. So just to show some of those other items that you could potentially look at. And again, if you wanted to go look at the antecedents, you could draw those and show potentially what those are. Here it's defaulting to the actual name labels, and so of course anonymize it. This is also a truncated data set, so there's much more material in this data set and information than what's being shown here. And I've jittered the dates and things like that, so if showing a particular pedigree, you wouldn't be able to sort of reconstruct the data very easily. It sort of points to the value of constructing a data set like this. It's not very easy to do. So just to show here, again, with regards to those links, patent link, open in a new tab, and then you'd be able to look at the associated patent with information. The other thing that doing is collecting, lots of resources about particular lines. So there's like audio files about it, there's images about it, there's videos about the lines, and then with regards to any major publications talking about these particular lines, there's also information provided. So a great way to sort of explore and understand lines that are available to you. Of course, able to do a consult on any of this or put you in touch with consultants for a particular area of interest, and also have genetic materials that are being developed if there's a particular line of interest. I have crossed material with it if you want to sort of have breeding starts, or even if there's a few hybrids that you might be interested in looking at just to understand potential. Definitely something that can be supported. Just to show, this offset nodes, it won't do anything in this, but it basically moves these nodes up and down so that they're more readable potentially if they're overlapping. So good to have that clicked. And then labeling links, if any of these items have a label on them, it'll be labeled. So just to show here, if we go look at LH195, if we look at descendants, and just do one step, you can see here that these are labeled in terms of, in this case, the percentage of parentage for hybrids, which is at 50% if it's a single cross. For other things, I'll label it either based on pedigree, so like back crosses and that sort of thing are obvious in terms of parentage, or you can look at the origin. But also, based on marker analysis, what actual parentage is, not just theoretical pedigree parentage, when that information is available. You can upload your own CSV file, so you can choose your own file and give it a name and upload your own data. You can buy data from me with regards to anything that you're interested in, or tranches of data can be sold by the node. And clearly this isn't limited to the particular crop that we're looking at here, which is corn, but any crop is possible, of course. And then really anything that has a parent-child relationship. So it doesn't necessarily need to be plants or animals for breeding. It could be anything else that has a parent-child relationship, chemical discovery, those sorts of things. So this software, it's available to license. It's clearly a web-based application, so it'll work on your computer, it'll work on your phone, it'll work on a tablet. We're constantly updating this in terms of feature functionality, and similarly, the data that's available for it. If you don't have your own data, you can always purchase data from us in order to populate this tool and use it to explore genetic materials and figure out what might be of interest to breed with. And then if we can support you in terms of consulting more specifically in depth, or with regards to provisioning genetic material, happy to do that. And then just to mention here, you can configure this any way you want. So label options, filter options, shading options, pop-up field options. You can select what they are. You can select, of course, how they're filtered. You can select the shading regime to use. You can see here we've got lots of information about like different types of het groups that have been reported for things. We calculate things like number of recoveries or number of hybrids. We calculate things like maturity, and there's a whole host of data: plant height, ear height, things like cob length, cob width, kernel length, width, depth, kernel weight, test weight. All of that data, depending on what you're interested in, is available and then can be configured in here for you to explore. And you just change these items here. Like if you want to change the order in this and bump it up, you come down and submit the configuration. The configuration is saved, and then when you go to your filter or your labels, you'll see that. I guess maybe one last thing to mention here with regards to labels is you can always do multiple secondary labels. So if you hold down Control, you can select these and you can add as many items as will fit there on the the node. Clearly, if you've got quite a few nodes, this gets a little bit messy pretty quickly, and if you add too many, they always sort of currently hang off the bottom, which is like an item that we'll be working on updating so that doesn't do that in the future, which is one of the advantages of web applications. We constantly improve them and constantly do releases based on user guidance and preferences for future functionality. One of the next steps we'll be doing here is doing parent comparison. So if you select multiple parents of interest, it'll draw a grid down below and give you mid-parent outcomes for specific metrics of interest. So if you're interested in this, please get in touch. You can contact us at agscienceinsights.com through the website, and would love to hear from you.